You've been told performance comes from motivation. That success in the gym, on the field, or in the errand of life is about willpower, mindset, or intensity. But that's only half the truth. The other half is biology, raw, measurable, non-negotiable physiology. When we speak of power, of divine strength working through the body and mind, we often forget that the Creator formed us with tools already built into our design. Among them is a compound so simple, yet so powerful, it fuels the very essence of motion and thought. This is creatine. Not merely a gym supplement, but a molecule that speaks to the intelligent design of human performance. Most people associate creatine with muscle size and gym culture, but that is a limited, almost disrespectful view of what this substance truly does. It is not just about building strength. It is about energizing the brain, fortifying your mind, and protecting your spiritual vessel under pressure. The brain consumes massive amounts of energy, even while the body is still. When you are making decisions, resisting temptation, or summoning the courage to act, your brain is burning fuel at an extraordinary rate. Creatine helps to replenish this fuel, restoring the energetic currency of your cells known as ATP. This isn't theory. This is measured, replicated, undeniable. When creatine is available, your brain doesn't falter under stress. It sustains clarity. It maintains alertness. It operates from power, not panic. And in a world filled with confusion where decisions must be made under fatigue and fear, this becomes not just a physical advantage, but a spiritual one. We are not just called to be strong in body, we are called to be sound in mind. When the apostles spoke of discipline, vigilance, and the renewing of the mind, they were pointing toward a state of readiness, of clarity, of holy alertness. Creatine feeds the brain circuits involved in that alertness. It strengthens the prefrontal cortex, which governs judgment, impulse control, and faith-based reasoning. It empowers you to resist the chaos, to endure mental trials with resilience that seems unnatural. But it is not unnatural. It is designed. Those who walk in spiritual authority must also learn to govern their biological temple. Your body is not accidental. It is intentional. And anything that strengthens the integrity of that temple is worth understanding. When creatine enters your system, it goes beyond your muscle cells. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. It saturates the brain tissue. It enters the cells responsible for attention, memory, and action. It strengthens your focus when distractions scream. It keeps your thoughts sharp when the enemy whispers confusion. It is, in every sense, a tool of dominion, not over others, but over your own flesh, your own fatigue, your own mental weakness. And if we are to steward this life well, we must use every tool heaven has allowed. Creatine is not about shortcuts. It is not about vanity. It is about function, capacity, and purpose. It is about being able to think clearly when others break, to move with strength when others fall. Every movement you make, every thought you form, every heartbeat and breath requires energy, and not just vague energy, but a specific, measurable molecular force called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. It is the currency of life, the spark behind every muscular contraction and every electrical impulse in the brain. Without ATP, the body dies, the mind shuts down, the spirit is robbed of its vessel. Now, the human body can produce ATP in several ways, but the fastest, most immediate system for regenerating it relies on something deeply tied to physical grace and neurological sharpness. Phoscreatine, this is where creatine enters the divine equation. Creatine, once consumed and absorbed, is stored in muscles and in the brain as phosphocreatine. When you sprint, lift, jump, speak with power, or even pray with intensity, ATP is broken down to release energy. In that moment of effort, phosphocreatine donates its phosphate to restore ATP. It happens in milliseconds. Without creatine in the system, this regeneration is slow and limited. You fatigue faster, your neurons stutter, your muscles tremble. But when creatine is present, when your system is saturated and your stores are full, you become a different vessel entirely. Your output is not limited to what you were born with. It is elevated. It is renewed. This is not an artificial push. It is a restoration of what the body was always meant to do at its peak, like sharpening a blade that was always steel underneath the rust. And it doesn't just end with physical output. The brain, an organ often ignored in the conversation about energy, relies on ATP just as much. Every synapse, every network, every moment of memory and attention burns through ATP at an astonishing rate. When that supply falters, the brain dims, focus drifts, mood suffers. But with creatine, ATP regeneration in the brain is enhanced. This allows mental clarity to endure under pressure, spiritual discernment to remain intact when fatigue sets in, and disciplined thought to prevail over carnal reaction. This is not simply a sports supplement. This is an amplifier of God-given ability, a molecular key that unlocks performance, not through unnatural force, but through divine alignment. Energy, in its truest form, is life force, and creatine supports the machinery that regenerates that life force. Again and again. Not just for athletes, but for warriors of spirit, for thinkers, for those who must carry burdens, lead others, and finish the race marked before them. ATP is the foundation. Creatine is the multiplier. And when they work in harmony, the body becomes a servant to purpose, not a barrier to it. when your body is pushed to its limit, when you're sprinting, lifting, fighting, or fasting through pain. What determines whether you endure or break is how your system manages stress at the cellular level. That moment of high intensity where muscles contract violently, lungs strain for air, neurons fire like lightning. It demands more than just motivation. It's biochemical readiness. Creatine, often misunderstood as just a muscle builder, is in fact one of the most profound tools for sustaining that intensity. Not by cheating nature, but by empowering what God has already placed inside you. It fuels explosive movement. It shortens recovery between sets, and it protects the brain from the damage of repeated physical and mental warfare. Your muscles aren't just tissue. They're vessels of power. During high-intensity exercise, they drain energy in seconds. Without adequate creatine, this depletion forces early fatigue. But when the cells are saturated with creatine, the energy system buffer is stabilized and renewed. The power doesn't fall off. The repetitions don't decline. The performance doesn't collapse under pressure. You become capable of operating at your highest output repeatedly. This is how you break plateaus. This is how you shatter limits that once felt permanent, not through magic, through biochemical truth. But this isn't only about muscle. The nervous system is under even greater strain during intensity. Your motor neurons fire signals to your limbs. Your brain interprets force, motion, threat, and it all happens in milliseconds. Creatine strengthens this electric network. It supports the neurons by providing immediate fuel, reducing misfiring and delaying neurological fatigue. Athletes talk about staying in the zone. That zone is built on the brain's ability to maintain control while the body is under fire. Creatine keeps the control intact. It allows the signal to remain strong even when everything else is trembling. And when the battle ends, recovery begins. Whether you've endured a workout, a mental breakdown, or spiritual warfare, recovery isn't just rest, it's cellular. Creatine plays a role here too. It draws water into muscle cells, not to bloat, but to hydrate them for protein synthesis, repair, and anti-inflammatory response. Your muscles rebuild faster. Your soreness fades soon. Your readiness returns quicker. That's not just performance, it's stewardship. To be effective in any field, on the platform, in the gym, or in the pulpit, you need rapid recovery. Creatine gives you that advantage. There's more. Emerging science shows creatine isn't for the young and strong. It has neuroprotective effects, especially in the aging brain. It guards against oxidative stress, shields cognitive centers, and may even help prevent neurological decline. That means your memory, your focus, your clarity can be preserved as you age. Not just by prayer and purpose, but by honoring the tools God allowed in the earth for us to discover. Creatine enhances the fire in your body, accelerates healing, and defends your mind. It's not hype, it's not trend, it's power, accessible, legal, and God-aligned. There's a narrative that has lingered in gyms, locker rooms, and casual conversations for years that creatine causes bloating, makes you puffy, holds water in your gut, and leaves you looking soft. That myth is not just outdated. It's a deception that has kept countless individuals from stepping into greater strength, sharper energy, and clear mental function. Because the truth, the biological truth, is that creatine, when taken in cyclically supported doses, it does not flood your body with useless weight. It does not distort your form. It supports your performance at the cellular level without compromising the aesthetics or function of your body. What some call water retention is, in fact, strategic cellular hydration. It's not subcutaneous, it's intracellular. It's not puffiness, it's preparation. Your muscle cells are living, active, power-hungry structures. When creatine enters those cells, it draws in water, not as an accident, but as a necessity. Water in the muscle fiber increases cell volume, which initiates protein synthesis, accelerates recovery, and strengthens the signal for growth and air. This is not bloating. This is precision. This is the body operating as it was designed to. Hydrated, healed, and ready for action. There is no excess. There is no softness. There is only function wrapped in form. The myth of bloating came from misuse, from people loading creatine in absurd amounts, ignoring hydration, and failing to understand their own biology. When you respect the science, 3 to 5 grams daily with consistent intake, the results are lean, clean, and strong. You don't balloon. You sharpen. You become dense, not diluted. The muscles take on a fuller shape, not from fat or inflammation, but from readiness. Creatine primes you to respond. It doesn't puff you up. It prepares you for impact, and it must be said, hydration within the muscle is not a flaw. It is a gift. It improves nutrient delivery. It increases tensile strength. It promotes resilience under tension. It is a biochemical advantage gifted through nature and not manipulated by marketing, and the mind benefits too. That same hydration affects brain tissue, optimizing focus, mood, and memory. The idea that we must fear fullness in our cells is born from a culture that values appearance over purpose. But those called to strength, true, functional, spirit-led strength, don't run from the fullness of their design. The creatine doesn't just spare your body from weakness. It spares you from deception, the deception that power and aesthetics must be at war. The lie that effective supplementation will cost you your form. The truth is the opposite. Creatine, when used in wisdom, builds strength that looks and feels holy. Not inflated, not artificial, but real, rooted, responsive. A body and mind operating in unison, fully alive, fully engaged. Not burdened by excess, but fueled by excellence. There is no supplement, no molecule, no matter how powerful, that works in isolation. The body was not designed to operate in fragments. It was crafted as a holy system where breath, rest, hydration, and nourishment move in harmony. And creatine, while potent on its own, becomes exponentially more powerful when it's integrated into this divine rhythm. You can't shortcut physiology. You must cooperate with it. You must align your actions with the blueprint the Creator placed in your biology. Creatine is a multiplier, but only when the foundation is set. Let's begin with sleep. Recovery is not optional. It is sacred. While you sleep, your body repairs damaged tissue, rebalances hormones, clears neurotoxins, and resets the nervous system. ATP levels are replenished, cortisol is regulated, and the architecture of your brain, memory, emotion, perception is restructured. Creatine supports this process. When your cells are saturated with it, they recover faster, they build stronger, they function more in the face of stress. But if you neglect rest, if you sacrifice sleep in pursuit of performance, you deny creatine the very environment where it can do its greatest work. Restoration is not laziness, it is spiritual obedience. And creatine obeys that works best when your rhythms are aligned. Then comes hydration. Creatine draws water into your cells, not as a side effect, but as a strategic function. Without water, the process fails. Without hydration, there's no muscle repair, no ATP regeneration. Focus. Dehydrated cells are weak cells. Dry muscles are tight, prone to cramping, and slow to heal. A dehydrated brain loses access to sharpness, mood regulation, and alertness. When you take creatine without water, you are lighting a fire with no fuel. But when you hydrate deeply, purposefully, you give that creatine something to work with. You enable the miracle of molecular synergy where water becomes strength, where saturation becomes stamina. Your system begins to flow instead of grind, and finally, breathwork. Oxygen is the currency of life. It is the breath of God in the lungs of man. It controls heart rate, nervous system state, mental focus, and muscular tension when you breathe with intent. Slow, deep, controlled, activate the parasympathetic nervous system, reduce inflammation, and improve cellular oxygenation. Creatine in that state becomes a tool of precision. It amplifies the energy created through oxidative respiration. It allows your muscles to buffer acid, hold force, and your mind to stay clear under fatigue. When breath, creatine work together, you create an environment of holy resilience. You become a vessel that doesn't crack under pressure but thrives in it. This isn't about hype. It's about order. Divine order, where sleep is protected, is honored, breath is mastered, and creatine is placed in its rightful role, not miracle, but as a multiplier, a tool among tools, working in synergy with the laws written into your body by the Creator himself. This is how true performance is built, not by chaos, but by alignment. The body does not reward what you do occasionally. It responds to what you do consistently. This is a principle that governs all of nature, all of growth, and all of transformation. The same applies to creatine. It is not a stimulant. It does not offer a surge. It offers saturation. Its power is unlocked not through timing gimmicks or obsession with pre- or post-workout windows, but through daily obedience to a protocol. This is not about hype. It is about biochemical accumulation. Just as spiritual disciplines yield fruit over time, creatine reveals its strength in the faithful rhythm of use. Every time you take it, your muscle cells and neurons store a little more. Your body builds a reservoir of energy, of readiness, of resilience. One day does not change you, but 100 days of faithfulness shifts your biology. The mitochondria begin to operate more efficiently. The ATP regeneration cycle becomes sharper. The nervous system adapts under pressure. The brain functions with more clarity. This is not theory. It is cellular truth. It mirrors the spiritual law that says so consistently, reap abundantly. Many chase the perfect time to take creatine, but the science is clear. Consistency far outweighs timing. The goal is saturation. Once the stores are full, the timing of intake becomes secondary. Whether morning or evening, before or after training, what matters is that you feed the system daily. This is not a quick fix. It's a covenant with your biology, a daily honoring of the temple you've been given. Just as prayer must be unbroken, just as fasting must be intentional, your supplementation must be anchored in rhythm. And this rhythm, over time, changes how your body and mind respond to strain. Fatigue comes later. Recovery arrives faster. Mental dips become rarer. You become, in every sense, harder to break, more capable of carrying burden, more prepared to fulfill calling. This is what the world needs. Not more hype-driven performance, but consistent, grounded, resilient warriors, men and women who build their body and brain the same way they build their faith with daily discipline. Creatine is a tool in that process, not a shortcut, not a miracle, but a substance that, when respected and used faithfully, elevates your capacity to endure. And endurance is a spiritual principle. The one who endures to the end shall be saved. The one who shows up daily, even in weakness, will be transformed. That's what daily creatine does. It transforms the baseline. It builds power quietly, steadily, without fanfare. Not for show, but for service. Not to impress, but to withstand. Not to elevate ego, but to fulfill assignment.